Burnout rarely begins with collapse. It begins with small acts of self-override. A meeting you say yes to even though your energy is gone. A limit you ignore because it feels inconvenient. A boundary you silently cross, telling yourself it's only this once. And this is important to understand. This is not about weakness. This is about sustainable work. Self-override is the habit of dismissing your internal signals in favor of external demands. You feel tired, and you push anyway. You feel tension, and you normalize it. You need rest, and you postpone it. Nothing dramatic happens. There is no crisis, no visible breaking point. Self-override is not loud. It is incremental. It shows up as small decisions that seem reasonable in the moment. And because they seem reasonable, they are rarely questioned. Why do we do this? Because self-override often feels responsible, mature, professional. Many of us tie our identity to reliability. We want to be the person others can count on. We fear disappointing colleagues, clients, or people we care about. We also live inside a culture that quietly rewards constant productivity, where being busy signals importance, where rest must be justified. And sometimes there is something deeper, a subtle addiction to performance, a quiet need to prove competence over and over again. We don't override ourselves because we are weak. We override ourselves because we are capable, because we can push through, because we can handle more, because we are used to carrying things well. Competence becomes the very reason we ignore our limits. But there is a neurological price. Every act of override keeps the nervous system slightly elevated. Not enough to alarm you, just enough to accumulate. The body moves into chronic alertness. Recovery windows shrink. Micro-stress begins to stack. You may not notice it day to day, but the system adapts to pressure, and adaptation is not the same as health. The body can function under strain for a long time. The mind can normalize exhaustion, but normalization is not balance. It is simply tolerance. The real danger is not a single override. It is normalization. When tension becomes baseline, when exhaustion feels ordinary, when "I'm fine" replaces "I'm well." This is where burnout quietly grows, not from one crisis, but from years of small dismissals of your own signals. Burnout is often the final stage of long-term normalization. And by the time we recognize it, the pattern feels invisible, because it has become our identity. So, what is the shift? Not more discipline, not better time management, not another productivity system. Sustainable work begins with respecting internal signals, even when nothing dramatic is wrong. When you feel tired, you pause. When tension rises, you adjust. When limits appear, you acknowledge them. This is not laziness, it is alignment. The opposite of burnout isn't rest, it is alignment. When your actions match your capacity, when your commitments match your energy, when your pace matches your reality. Because if you constantly override yourself, recovery becomes maintenance, not restoration. You rest just enough to function again, not enough to truly reset. You take breaks that prepare you for more pressure instead of restoring clarity and calm. And slowly life becomes a cycle of managing fatigue. But a life that doesn't need recovery begins with one shift: stopping the quiet betrayal of your own limits. Not dramatically, not all at once, just noticing. Notice the next time you push past a signal. Notice the moment you say yes while your body says no. Notice the tension you call normal. Awareness is the first interruption of self-override. From there, change becomes possible. If this idea resonates with you, I explore the concept of self-override more deeply in a life that doesn't need recovery. But the practice begins simply. Pay attention, respect the signal, choose alignment one small moment at a time, because sustainable work starts with listening to yourself.